All right, let's get started. So thanks for joining the webinar. My name is Nick Tolstashev, and I'm here with Jason Good from our support team, who's going to help me answer questions. How it works is we'll have you ask your questions in the chat window, and then we'll take the questions as they come in. We'll do our best to answer. Like it's a more involved and in-depth question, we'll unmute you, and that way we can interact live. And if need be, we can have you share your screen, or we can share our screen. If there's any questions that we can't answer immediately, we'll go off and do some research and find out the answer for you and post that on the community. And you can ask us questions about Automox or just general IT stuff, and we'll do our best to answer those as well. So it looks like we have a couple folks who've joined. So feel free to open up your chat window and type in your questions, and then we'll take those as they come in. Yeah, go ahead and type in your questions if you have any, and then we'll start with whoever types in first. Fastest typer gets to be first.
Mm-hmm.
In the meantime, while you guys are formulating your questions, we did have a question come in over our intercom channel yesterday that they wanted us to take a look at in this webinar. And their question was around you writing a worklet to pop open a web page in the default browser on an endpoint. So I did a little bit of poking around on that one, and I can show you kind of the process that goes into researching and making a worklet. So for that question, the first thing I did was I did some Googling around just to see, is there a simple, easy way in PowerShell, command to pop open a browser window with a URL. And I found an answer on this site that looks like it's pretty promising. So use this start process with the path here. So there's a couple different examples here that I found on the TechNet website. So my process would be to just take this code, run it in a test PowerShell window and make sure it works. And then from there, we can go over and create a worklet. In this case, we're wanting it to just happen on a regular schedule, so we don't need to do any evaluation code, so we can just do an exit one here. And then I would come over here, take some of this sample code here. And we'll put in a test URL here. Now, if we were to run this right away, we wouldn't see anything pop up because worklets code run as the system user. So it would try and open up a browser for the system user rather than the currently logged in user. So to get around that, there are some code snippets I've used on the community previously to get the currently logged in user so that we can run this as that user. So I would add that as a wrapper to this code before attempting to run it. Looks like Michael has a question in here. We received this error for certain machine patches, Google Chrome, failure to apply patch, Google Chrome, couldn't download Chrome update at C program data AM agent. You able to see that one, Jason?
Yep. Yeah, usually that's because the way we update Chrome is we activate the Google Chrome auto updater. So in this case, it's actually going out to Google and trying to pull down the update. The times I've seen this problem is because they've either set up a proxy or there's some kind of a networking problem where they haven't opened up communication between their system and Google.
Gotcha.
Every single time, that's what it is, because we don't actually host those updates. So yeah,
Okay,
I would check in the proxy. Yeah,
Yeah,
check into the proxy or some networking problem and make sure that they actually can communicate with the Chrome updater.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no
is
problem.
that something that you have set up in your environment, Michael? Are you guys using a proxy?
We're not normally, and the thing is that I would say like 85 to 90% of our systems are checking in just fine and updating Chrome just fine. It just
Yep.
happens to be a handful of systems that are seemingly getting this type of error, and I'm trying to figure out what I need to check to resolve that so that Chrome updates properly.
Gotcha.
Yeah, if you grab one of those machines and check to make sure, I can try and find the address that you need to check, but that's where I would go first. And if that doesn't work, send us a ticket and we can definitely help investigate it.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Cool. Yeah, thanks for the question.
And are these machines that are in your office, or are they people working remotely?
So, I mean, being that this is the environment that we're all living in, most of everyone now is remote.
Yeah.
But we do have a handful of servers that are, I would say, in a data center or things like that, that also are getting similar type errors for different applications. So I was just trying to figure out if there was a similar fix um, across the board for different apps when I get a failure error like that, where it's not updating.
When it can't download, that might be it. Chrome is one of the rare ones that we don't host internally.
Okay.
But if you get any others, definitely let us know. We can look into them.
I get the only other one that I see like when I have little issues with is Notepad++. I don't know if you guys when I try to
When
patch
it's running. If it's running, we don't patch it.
Got it.
So that's something to worry. Yeah, you need to make sure that it's actually closed. So that might be something you can put into the notification box so that when it pops up, they know, hey, close Notepad++, so this thing can patch.
Got it.
Yeah, and the reason we do that is out of the box, Notepad++ doesn't do a graceful job of exiting if it's force closed externally. So if you had unsaved work in there, it would potentially close the app without saving that work. Now I think there's either a setting or a plugin you can download that makes it exit gracefully, but we can't assume that everybody's changed that setting or downloaded that plugin. So we are on the side of not force.
Caution. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, and for the Chrome issue, if you run the Chrome updater by hand in Chrome on any of those machines, is it able to download the update okay?
So on one of them that I was testing, it was not. I logged in remotely and tried to run it manually, and it failed, and it said you need to be a system administrator. But I was like, but I was a system administrator, so I'm like, that's weird. So I mean, there's something obviously different with those machines that are failing than the ones that normally are doing this without an issue. I am kind of curious though as to why like our normal workstation builds would have that issue. But I will look at the proxy settings and some of the network settings and see if I can isolate that.
Yeah,
Okay,
that
sounds
does
good.
make sense that it would be failing when you try it by hand as well. So that confirms it is a connection issue to get the patch and download it for whatever reason. And are these machines consistent, or is it just like once in a while it fails, but the rest of the time it's
No,
okay?
it's the same machines every time that have this issue.
So it's some sort of persistent network issue or firewall or something blocking it. Sounds like. All right, cool. Well, yeah, once you've had a chance to investigate more, if you're still having the issue, like Jason said, feel free to contact us again or open a ticket, and we'll take a further look at it.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Any other questions you have for us while we have you?
Well, I was going to say the only other question that I would have, it's kind of what's being shown. If I want to install basically a third-party app, I haven't really done too much of it that is not already part of Automox. Just what that process would be like when you're using PowerShell or other installation file media, I guess, and just that process on how to build it and do it. Because I know that I have a bunch of apps I would like to push to systems that already have the Automox agent running, so that I can just make sure that they have all the right software on their systems.
Yeah, I can walk you through that. So you can see my screen okay?
Yes.
Okay, cool. I'll start a new policy for required software policy, which
Yeah,
is how you deploy the software and walk you through the ins and outs of that.
that's what I would recommend to try first too, because that's definitely the simplest.
Yeah. So I'm assuming these are all Windows machines.
Some are Windows machines, but actually I have a host, about 10 Mac OS machines that I also have to push an install file to.
Okay, cool. Well, I'll show you the process for Windows. I mean, it's pretty much the same for Mac.
Okay.
So yeah, you go in and create a new policy and you select required software policy, and then you give it a name. So in this case, I'll do install Notepad++. The first thing you need to do is to figure out how the software shows in add remove programs on Windows, because you need to match that syntax here, because this is how we're checking to see if it's installed. So you'll go find the package name. In this case, it is Notepad++. Oops. And then you put in the required version number. And you don't have to worry about future versions. So it will check against the current version number or anything newer than that. So say I'm installing version 7.8.4, I would put that in there. So what happens is when this policy runs, when the group scan fires, it will go to each machine that you've assigned this policy to, and it will check the add remove programs to see if there's already a listing for Notepad++ and at least version 7.8.4. And if it does find it, then it says, okay, no further action needed. If it doesn't, then it will go ahead and run the installer. So the first thing I need to do is go to the website and grab the installer. So in this case, I'm going to install not the most recent version. I'm going to install 7.8.4 just for the purpose of the demo. And then I'm going to grab the 64-bit one, assuming it's a 64-bit Windows machine. Okay, so it's downloaded that installation file. I can now go back here and upload that to the Automox servers. And once the upload finishes, it will appear here underneath with a little red X. If you need to remove it and upload a new version, for instance, you can do that straight from here. Looks like that has stalled for some reason. Okay, looks like it's coming back on again. Okay, so now we see we've got the installer file here, and then this X if you need to remove it because you uploaded, the wrong file or you want to replace it with a newer version. And then the last thing you need to do is put in an installation command. Typically, the reason you need to do that is because you want it to have any flags required to do a silent install. Since every policy or worklet on Automox runs as system, if it tries to pop open an interactive window for the installer, that's not going to be shown to the currently logged in user. So the worklet will just stall out, or the policy will just stall out, and then you'll need to contact support to get that command cleared out that it's stuck on. So go ahead and click on the code. And this one I happen to know the flag is /S. You do want to put in the // here to make sure it's looking in the current directory to find the installer file, because that's where it gets downloaded to. And then I have the /S command here to make sure it's a silent install. And then I can pick a schedule here. I can run this every day so that once a day it'll try and install Notepad on any of the machines we assign this policy to. And go ahead and save that policy. Funny, there's a whole bunch of ones in here as I use this for training. So, I assign this to a group, and then for all the machines in this group, when it scans, it will check against this policy to make sure Notepad++ is installed or not. And then you can go into the activity log once the worklet has had a chance to run, and that'll show you, for instance, here, installed Notepad++ on a particular machine. So you can confirm in here that the action actually worked. A couple of caveats. For software that's not on our third-party list, you can use the exact syntax when you create the policy for the name of the software. But for software titles that we do support on our third-party software list, so anything on here, we have to put a custom name into add remove programs because of the way we're handling the updates. So it'll appear differently than in add remove programs than what we're searching for. And Notepad++ is an example of this. We're putting our own name for the software, which is Notepad++, in the worklet. I am working on getting a list of all of those, but for now, you can reach out to support if you need to know the exact name in here for anything that's on the third-party title list. So anything off of here that you're installing automatically. So again, the typical add remove programs probably does show Notepad++, but for our purposes, we need to use our custom internal name here.
That's good. I do have one more question. So I've been pushing a bunch of updates to a lot of systems, and some of my Windows 10 versions are not the most current version, so they need a feature update. And I noticed that when I go to apply a policy that has all the unknown, known, critical, and important patches all selected, sometimes after a restart, that feature update isn't applied. And I don't know why. And is there something that specifically I need to set in a parameter or to do in order to push the feature update specifically to that machine independently, or is that best practice?
Are you talking about like a Windows 10 major upgrade?
Yeah, so Windows 10 feature update 1903, for example, because
Yes.
that's one that I have to do quite often.
Yeah, so for these, because that system's not really reliable using the way we patch, we have one of our sales engineers, Adam, has written a series of worklets to do each of the updates. So for instance, here, if you're wanting to go to 1903, he's made this worklet that you can roll out that checks the version and it downloads the ISO, and then it runs the updater on the Windows 10 machines and then deletes the ISO file after it's done. So you can, take this workload off the community, put it into your environment, and then run it against the Windows 10 machines that you want to upgrade to 1903, and that'll make sure they get covered automatically.
That's perfect. Thank you.
Sure. And then you probably noticed we also have 1909 version. So, when you're ready to go up again, you can use this one. And anytime a new major version comes out, Adam will go ahead and make a new worklet for it so that you can automate those updates.
Perfect.
Any gotchas I'm not thinking about for these, Jason, that you've seen?
No, the reason we had to break those out is because Microsoft got in a lot of trouble for forcing down those feature updates. So they broke out feature updates separate from the regular patching cycle. So that's why we have to do them through worklets now.
Gotcha.
But no, they're really nice. It automatically mounts it to a free drive, runs the update, and then clears it up when it's done.
Yeah, he's done a lot of good error checking and making sure everything is set up properly for that install. And I don't think there's anything.
Just give it quite a bit of time because it does have to download the fairly large ISO, and then it takes a while to install, especially on home networks. I would give it a long time to run and finish before you just go around reboot machines.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I just wanted to know. I just saw that it wasn't succeed. Some systems it was succeeding on your patching, and then some it wasn't. And I just wanted to know if there was a way for the ones that weren't to make it kind of work. And
This would be the thing to do. Yeah, there's one KB that came out that that broke the old way of doing feature updates. So some of those machines might not have it, so they would still be able to get feature updates.
Got it.
And are there any Let me look at the documentation. If there's any other arguments you need to, or variables you need to set in here. I think all the
I don't
defaults
think so.
were
Yeah, he
pretty well.
changed it so that it's pretty pretty plug and play now.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing, if there's any localization, so if you have any machines overseas that are not using the English version, then you might need to change the language and the location ID.
We
Uh,
do. We
okay.
do.
Yeah. So you could have separate policies for those, one for, the English version and the other one for the overseas, whichever language you need to change it to.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Yes.
Cool. Looks like we don't have any other people waiting in line for questions, so we've got extra time if there's any other things you want to ask about, or things you've been thinking about doing but haven't had a chance to research yet.
I think so. I think you've answered most of my questions, which is awesome. That was one of the reasons why I did sign up, because I wanted to see, hey, could I get some help? And do you know how to do this? And it seems like you guys have answers, which is perfect. And I really like Automox, by the way. We've been using it for about a month and a half, 2 months, and we're really enjoying it.
Do you have any fellow sysadmins that you work with, or are you army of one?
So I'm the army of one. I have a network engineer that I work with that also will do it sometimes, and then my boss will take a look. But we're a pretty small shop, but supporting a lot of different technology.
Gotcha.
So Automox helps a lot because in the past we haven't had a way to patch Mac or Linux systems, and now we do.
Gotcha.
And that really helps.
Oh, it's great to
Awesome.
hear. And as you get more familiar with the software and want to try out new things, if there are examples of worklets that we don't already have listed here, like if you have an idea of how would I write a worklet to do function X, feel free to reach out to us, either to support or posting on the community. And a lot of these worklets were written in response to customer requests, so we're happy to help put together worklets for you for whatever unique situations you may run into.
No, that sounds great.
All right, so yeah, it looks like we don't have any more questions in the queue. Thanks for those that attended, and thanks, Michael, for asking questions. And we'll hopefully see you at the next one in a few weeks or a month from now. All right.
Sounds good. Thanks. Bye-bye.
All right, thank you.